Welcome to Storytime at the Roo Clues, a weekly podcast about the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I'm your host, Sharla.
And I'm Daniel. And hey, everybody, we didn't really mean to take a week off there. Things just got busy, and we were on the What podcast, and I think we just kind of decided that would be our episode for the week, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, we've been traveling a lot. We went to visit Sharla's family. We've been down in Florida. But yeah, thanks to Barry and Taco for having us on the What podcast so we could give our elevator pitch about Totem to kind of a different audience. You know, they get a lot of people that don't necessarily listen to us. So thanks to those guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to that already, definitely check out that episode of the What podcast. You can find it on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.
I would go to YouTube first because Taco does such a good job editing in like pictures and videos and stuff.
He has been doing a fantastic job with that, and I know he has really been trying to push that out as one of their big platforms. So definitely check that out on YouTube if you can.
So they let us push our stuff on their podcast, so maybe we should return the favor and tell people that, hey, you should go watch Taco's like video game streams on Twitch. He's always pushing that. He's been playing like old Super Nintendo games, but this past week he was playing the Zelda game that was on Wii. I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was Twilight Princess. I played that one back in the day. But he has it with like mods, and I don't quite understand what he's doing.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
A lot of it is beyond
I'm
my
not
understanding.
a gamer at all. So.
I know the games that he plays. He just does like all this weird stuff where he has all these like Easter eggs and things that you can interact with if you're watching on the stream.
Cool.
Me and Brooklyn get on and troll him sometimes. He has this thing where you can get a little rubber duck. But anyways, we'll bring him on one of these days to talk about that when it's slow or whatever. But yeah, thanks again to Barry and Taco for having us on where we could plug Totem. By the way, speaking of which, we've got a new website up at totemfnd.org. The previous one was just a page off of the old Rubus site, but now we have its own dedicated page where it's got some imagery. Some of it was supplied by Evan Bonnaroo, apparently, as he is known by some people.
Evan Brown.
Evan Brown, yeah, from Jersey/New York. He gave me a couple of photos that's used on the little footer tags and everything, a couple other places too. But again, check that out at totemfnd.org. That is a place that you can send family and friends to as you hook us up and tell them about it over the holidays when you go to like parties and dinners and things like that.
Yes.
So please, that's one thing that you can really help us out with is kind of go tell people at these gatherings that you're going to go to over the holidays about what we're up to, whether it be the mentorship thing or the scholarship thing. If you think of anybody that is good for either side of what we're doing right now, point them our way. It's at totemfnd.org.
That is the number one thing that you can absolutely do is to share the scholarship application with people.
Yeah, please do. And also, if you want to, we're recording this on Giving Tuesday, but you'll get it a little later. Just pitch in a few bucks, and I will tell you this, even if you donate $1, that is going to help out a ton because we will be able to tell people in the future that we have X number of people who have donated. So even if you donate $1, you become a tally on that where we can say like, oh, this many people have donated since we've become a nonprofit.
Right, exactly.
That helps out tremendously. So, all right, I wanted to get all that stuff out of the way at first because we've been talking about Totem a lot. We've got some other things coming up this week. We do this every year. I feel like we've done this the past 2 or 3 years. When it's around Thanksgiving, getting close to Christmas, we talk about the things that are needed for your campsite at Bonnaroo. So if you are buying things for someone that is going to Bonnaroo, or if you are sending those little like wish lists along to friends and family of things that you may need, me and Charlie are going to go through all the stuff that we can think of that would be good to add to those lists.
We are.
But first, you want to talk a little bit about Roo Tea before we get to all of that?
Roo Tea.
Well, we got another Roo Clue today.
We did.
So we have had 2 Roo Clues come out since we have recorded last. The first one, I think, was universally agreed to be the Australian band Parcels.
Yes, and I think that clue is fairly easy.
So we were on our Thanksgiving weekend trip, and I was driving when that came out. So you dug that up. So tell me what was on the clue, and you were watching closely. Like, how quickly did everybody figure it out?
So everyone figured it out. I mean, just within a few minutes. It was pretty easy. It was airport codes for Berlin to an airport in New South Wales, Australia. So Parcels is a band from Australia, and they currently live in Berlin. And then also on the clue, it showed, if I'm remembering correctly, some boxes.
Like their luggage, I guess?
No, like actual boxes, like
Yeah,
cardboard boxes.
Oh, the parcels.
Yeah,
that makes so much sense.
Going by on like a conveyor belt. So that's, I mean, it just made sense.
Yeah, that's one of those where they made it pretty obvious.
Yeah,
and I feel like they messed with people a little bit by like putting in that Australian airport code. Everybody's like, King Gizzard, Tame Impala, Pond. Like, no, it's another one.
Yeah. But I think using an easy clue to start with gets people, ramped up and excited, obviously.
The one today on Tuesday the 28th was not easy.
No.
Festival had to finally like pretty much tell everybody what it was about 2 hours after the fact.
So the one today, I was looking on Reddit and I was looking on Twitter, et cetera, and so forth, and just no one was getting it. And it just, an hour or so went by, and then Festival had to confirm what it was. But someone on our Discord, I think their name was Jaeger or something.
Yeah.
Got it within 13 minutes.
He knew that it was guar.
Yes.
I think.
Got it in 13 minutes.
I think when these clues come out and they were like ridiculously ambiguous, there's a number of different possible explanations for the act that it could be.
Right.
Like guar was one of many at the time that seemed to make sense.
That's what a lot of people on Reddit were saying. Well, granted, this clue could have been a lot of people. It could have been a number of people.
Yeah, and I know it works for them to have people talking about it for 2 hours because that link to buy tickets is out there for 2 hours if people are like retweeting it, asking for clues and stuff like that. But yeah, guys, that one was a little too vague and too tough. Like, we got to get it a little easier than that one. Are you like that?
I want them to have some tough ones out there like that. You want that suspense out there.
I am still a little salty over one, like way back in like 2014 or 15 or whatever. There was a picture of a baby wearing a shirt with a coffin on it. You would think that the reasonable like thing that would be Death Cab for Cutie. Right? It was not. Like, I still remember that. I don't even remember now.
See, back in the day, I remember when there would be clues out there that just nobody would get and they would never be confirmed, and it would just...
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, these can be kind of, I don't want to say infuriating, but like really frustrating sometimes.
So the most frustrating one I've ever saw, and now I'm not a modern country music fan by any means, so I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but it literally said a scary movie buried under wood or buried under something or something of that nature. And it was so obvious the clue was like trying to make like it was Carrie Underwood, but it obviously wasn't. And I don't even remember who it was supposed to be, but it was like, what? It was so weird.
The easiest one,
unusual, but like,
The easiest one that I recall was around, I guess, 2015, maybe that same year. It was just a little plant in somebody's garden, and it had a name tag that said Robert. So it was Robert Plant, from Led Zeppelin and the Sensational Shapeshifters. I think that was the name of the band at the time. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, that took 2 seconds. And it was kind of cool that they gave pretty much a sub-headliner in a clue like that. I don't know if they're going to keep doing that because I would assume that it's different people entirely these days that are putting together the clues and the imagery that goes with it. But it's kind of fun playing this game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Today's for Guar was a little too tough. I personally don't want them to continue to be that tough, but you like it.
I mean, have a couple of tough ones in there. I mean, someone got it in 13 minutes on our Discord, so...
Yeah, but we didn't know it. We had to have Festival confirm it.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
Like, we were saying anything from, like, Three Dog Night to Boy Genius.
As long as they're confirmed, I think. As long as it's not like it just goes on forever and it's never confirmed.
Yeah, if it's hanging out there for days, then it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hey, speaking of Festival, we got a note from him over the past week or so that apparently sales are up compared to last year. And last year, it went pretty well to begin with. That's crazy that they're selling that well when we still have no clue whatsoever who the 3 headliners are going to be. Mm-hmm. This is the craziest year that I can recall. Usually by this point, like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, we have a pretty good idea of at least 1 or 2 of the headliners. I don't think anybody has a realistic guess as to who the top 3 are going to be at this point. There's been so many possible names flying around. there's little to no confirmation about who the headliners may be, in the same way that we have confirmation about like a lot of the other sub headliners and lower cards and things like that. This is wild. I never remember it being like this unknown this late in the game in rumor season. You would think that probably some stuff is going to slip here in the next few weeks, as it usually does, but I don't know. I feel like we're going to get a big surprise this year. And I'm not saying like, oh, we're going to get a big surprise headliner. I'm just saying I think it's going to be some stuff that we aren't even considering at the moment.
I say it all the time, but the best resource is definitely that Reddit thread, because it literally takes sources from everywhere and puts it all together.
And big props to, how do you say that guy's name? Remard?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but he's doing a fantastic job.
Amazing.
Please buy him whatever drink he wants at Roo, because he is doing the Lord's work, keeping all this information straight, not just in terms of like, you know, putting down the rumors, but also verifying stuff, making sure that it's coming from like a good source. So it's not just going to be some, you know, Johnny come lately saying like, oh, Radiohead's going to be there or whatever. Like, no, this is, if it's on his list, there's a reason that it's there. So that is pretty much the resource for the next month or so. I think that we should get the lineup the first week of January. I don't think anything is going to change that. So we will be following the same pattern that we've had for what, like 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is now. But yeah, this is going to be a wild one. I would personally encourage everybody to not get your hopes up too high. And this is just Daniel's opinion. This isn't coming from any like source or anything. I think this is going to be a weird year in terms of booking, because there aren't any huge headliners that are playing festivals. We're not going to get the Rolling Stones. They're only going to play Jazz Fest in terms of festivals, and that's going to be it. So keep your expectations tempered. It's my suggestion. Be like me and Charlotte. Just be there for the party, man. I don't know. Guar is going to be pretty good. And Festival says they're going to be on Thursday, too.
So I heard that they are this year's Knock de Loose.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. How would you explain Guar to somebody who has never even seen a photo before? Like, it's fun metal stuff, but like in ridiculous Halloween costumes.
Yeah?
Have you heard these stories about what happened when they played Bonnaroo last time?
No.
So it's a big theater experience if you go see that band. They like shoot out fake blood into the audience. Apparently, after everybody got drenched in fake blood last time, they went over to the fountain to wash it off, and the fountain turned blood red.
Ah.
I mean, it's probably just food coloring or something, but that's still pretty cool.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, I like that Bonnaroo is getting stuff like that. That's just like ridiculous, you know, kind of a, like I said, a theater experience. They probably have like 90-something% of the lineup booked, but like if we were going to continue to do stuff like that, I also would love to bring back Weird Al.
I was going to say Weird Al, that's a theater experience.
Yes. Look, I've been going to Bonnaroo over 10 years now, and that show from Weird Al back in 2013 was some of the most fun that I've ever had at Bonnaroo. And have you seen, he's given interviews where people would ask him, like, what's his favorite show he ever played? And he's been playing a long time now. He says, without hesitation, that show at Bonnaroo was his favorite show he's ever played. For somebody that's been around the block like Weird Al, that's a big deal for him to say that.
Yeah.
They need to bring him back. Clearly, he would like to. Like, Weird Al is like some people's Dolly.
Really?
Okay. Before we jump into our camping list here in a little bit, just your opinion. Do you think it's possible we get Dolly this year?
No.
You don't think so at all? I do not want to get my hopes up at all. I realistically don't see it happening this year. But man, this rock album that she's put out apparently is like charting higher than anything that she's ever done.
Oh.
There was a news story about that on the CBS Evening News this afternoon before you got home from work. I'm like, wow, that's insane. But man, I don't know what connection needs to be made, but you all saw that halftime show at that Dallas Cowboys game. We need Dolly so bad. I mean, from our mouths to God's ears, but it's just a matter of making sure that like Bonnaroo talks to her team, I suppose. The What podcast found out some tea on this, like what, 2 or 3 years ago when they talked with some of the bookers.
If we get Dolly, we get Dolly, and everyone will be happy and joyful. But
90 people. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
90,000 people will ascend in the What field when that finally happens. Can you imagine when she plays Rocky Top finally from the What stage? How wild that would be. Okay, enough speculation. All right, we're going to take a quick break, thank our Patreons, and we'll be back after that with our wish list for the year.
Okay, we are back, and we want to thank our Patreons.
Yeah, so you guys know the drill. It is at patreon.com/Roobus, and when I get some time, I'm going to look into it to see if I can change that to /totem. But for now, you know what's going to happen. Charles is going to go through everybody that is a patron.
Okay, JB, Sam, Austin, Madeline, James, Chelsea, aka Hygiene Queen, Ryan, Chris, Skylar, Dan, Ernst, Bill, Harris, Keith, Casey, Chloe, Dave, Amanda, Aaron, Nick, Maddie, McFerg, Kent, Randy, Greg, Eric and Ben, Evan, Jay, Chloe, and Sean.
Thank you, everybody. Everything that everyone is pitching in is going directly to the Totem Foundation. 100% of it. We aren't doing that 20% stuff anymore. 100% of everything is going to go to the Totem Foundation. And we are doing pretty darn well. So funding isn't really going to be an issue in this first year. However, I do encourage you to donate $1 just so I can say that we have so many people who have donated. But also you can do it at patreon.com/Roobus. You'll become a patron of the podcast. We'll do a little something special for everybody at Roo. We'll figure out what that may be. We're not going to do the big party like we have in the past, but we do want to find a way to thank our Patreons. Thankfully, we have, 7 months to figure out what that may be?
I have an idea that we can do for the Patreons.
All right. Do you want to say this while we're recording, or you want to tell me later?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. Well,
I just thought of a really good idea for the Patreons.
More to come on that, I suppose. But thank you again, everyone. 100% goes to the Totem Foundation. This year, it's going to cover. We already covered all the administrative stuff in terms of like getting the actual foundation set up. Most of it is going to go to help our scholarship recipients. We want to give them a per diem because likely they're going to be coming from a financially disadvantaged situation. But we'll probably get a few things to have a promotional tent next to the bus this year. So I want to have some big signs so people can understand what we're doing with it, because you guys have heard about it through our podcast and the What Podcast and social stuff, but we're going to be able to talk to a lot of people at the bus at Bonnaroo who haven't heard of us. So we want to have some big signs and things where they can know what we're up to and we can further our goals the next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of people coming to Bonnaroo, do you want to jump into our Christmas list for this year?
Christmas list, I do, yes.
So this is kind of a wish list. We made a big list already when we were prepping this episode, but we're probably going to think of some other things as we go. So for a lot of you that have gone already, you've been a number of years, you're a veteran, this is going to be old hat to you. Maybe we'll think of a thing or two that you haven't thought of. But as we kind of transition over to Totem, we are kind of targeting first-timers. So this is going to be stuff that maybe they haven't necessarily thought about. So we're going to run through a lot of things that will be useful at your campsite. So when you're putting things on your wish list, when you're bugging, mom, dad, whoever it may be for things that you need for Christmas, this is stuff that you can put on. So, Charlotte, do you want to kick us off? What's some of the essentials that you need at your campsite if this is your first Roo?
Well, the very first two things that you're probably going to want to need is a canopy and a tent.
Well, yeah. So I know if you have been camping before, like at a state park or something like that, you're going to think, oh, you just need the tent, put in the stakes, pop it up or whatever. But for those of you that haven't been before, or for those of you that have been to one or two and you got lucky and was next to the trees or some shade structure, you can't count on that. You've got to have a good canopy. And you know what we're talking about. You've seen these before. They're on 4 legs. They have kind of like a colored tent on top of it. You can get them on sale usually, I would say, at a place like Academy Sporting Goods or Walmart or whatever, usually for about $50, $60, something like that.
Usually you can find them for as low as $50 and as high as $100. The most inexpensive ones I've seen are around $50 on Amazon. They come in either slanted leg canopies or straight leg canopies. Personally, I would get the straight leg ones, but really, it's not going to matter which leg style you get. What's really going to matter is the stakes that you get for your canopy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So those of you that were there 2 years ago already know why you need this, because we had a freak windstorm come through that destroyed a lot of people's stuff. In fact, I talked to somebody who had a canopy fly up and hit their car and shattered their window, and they had to have a whole rigmarole with the insurance company for months and months.
I know one of our Patreons, Kent, I think someone else's canopy blew into his van. Yeah.
I think that's who I'm thinking about. Yeah. So it can be a mess. So this is a lesson that Sharla and I learned where we had to upgrade our whole setup at Birding Man a couple of years ago. You can buy these screw-in stakes. I got them on Amazon, but you can find them in sporting goods stores. You can get cheap ones that are plastic that you hand screw, or you can get like longer metal ones that you need a drill for. That's what I use. We've been, drilling down our stuff. We used it to put down the monkey bar this past year just in case, because there was a lot of stuff in there. If you have a drill already at home, I would definitely advocate going that route. You can get a pack of 6 of them for like, $10, $12, something like that. They are worth it because it's not just in terms of like making sure that your stuff is secure. It's peace of mind. If you're in the middle of Senru and you see a storm, you're going to know like, oh, well, my stuff isn't going anywhere. I screwed it in. You don't necessarily have to worry about running back to camp to, secure everything because it already is. So just think about it. And if a drill isn't around, still at least get those like hand screws, like the plastic ones that are about 6 inches long. I've seen those in the back of Academy Sporting Goods. Check those out. You can probably find them on Amazon for less than $10. I would say those are absolutely essential, especially after all the damage that storm brought 2 years ago, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those are crucial. I would use those way over the little cheap ones that come with the canopy.
And also, before we get away from this subject too, you will talk to a lot of veterans that will say, oh man, you don't even need a tent. Just put a hammock or something up under your canopy. That is an option. I see more and more people doing it these days.
A lot of people will swear by that, just sleeping under the canopy itself. And you can do that. A lot of people do it for airflow. They don't like to be in the tent. They say it gets too hot, et cetera, and so forth.
It can, yeah.
Personally, if I were in a tent, if I didn't have the bus, I don't think I would be able to do that just because I would want a little bit of privacy. But, there are people that swear by it. What you do want to get for your canopy is to make sure that you create a wall set up with some tapestries.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So find some flags or like the big trippy looking tapestries or whatever. And something that I would recommend, this is the first thing that we didn't actually put in our list here, Sharla, are those big folder clips. So look at Amazon or a place like Office Depot. And this isn't going to be like a paper clip kind of thing or just like the little things. You want these big folder clips that are about 1 inch long.
Binder clips.
Binder clips. Yeah, thank you, Charles. That's the right name. That will make sure that your flag or tapestry will stay attached to your canopy. I have never had anything fly off of one of those. So you can get a pack for like $5, $10, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Dave with the monkey bar that gave us that idea.
Yeah, I've been doing that ever since. So yeah, look up those.
And you can get tapestries on Amazon for fairly cheap. You can find, ones that people have made on Etsy and stuff like that if you want to go that route, and that's super cool. But if you're not looking to spend a lot of money, Amazon is really the way to go.
And if you want to spend just a few more bucks, you'll start to see a lot of people on Reddit and some of the Facebook groups like Loophole or whatever start ordering these custom flags and tapestries in the coming months. Putting like inside jokes or silly memes or something like that. That's kind of worth it too. I have seen some great ones around the campgrounds.
Yes.
Some of them are unspeakable.
Some of the custom flags out there, oh my goodness, with the little inside jokes or with the pop culture references, they're really great.
And if you have a little bit more money to throw around, something that I might recommend is getting some type of flagpole where you can put a flag so you can see your camp from a distance. Now, when you're walking around the campgrounds, you're going to see many others. So you're going to know by like the end of the first day, like, oh, you got to turn left at the Rick and Morty meme to get back at your camp or whatever. But having something very distinct that you can see over canopies at your campsite is kind of a godsend too, because you'll be able to see it from a distance. Our friend Lindsay, who was Bonnaroo of the Year a couple of years ago, he comes in an RV with his dad, and he has this ridiculous thing where it has this LED light that's like 30 feet up in the air. I could see it all the way from the bus last year.
Yes.
And he was like about a 5-10 minute walk away. So anything that you can come up with that's stable, that's way up high in the air, will help a ton, especially if you're coming back at like 4 a.m. and you're not entirely sober and you're trying to find your space.
Mhm.
It will help a lot.
I wouldn't know about that.
You wouldn't know about that?
I
Charlotte,
come back at 6 a.m. No, I'm just kidding.
Charlotte, take us to something else. What's something else we might recommend?
So what type of cooler would you say?
Well, we are very lucky. So a couple of years ago, your dad found a Yeti at the bottom of a creek and gave it to us.
So, yes, my dad found a Yeti at a creek. He
Those-
also found another cooler. And he said one cooler was full of Cokes. And one cooler was,
Coca-Cola.
yes. And one cooler was full of beer. And he looked around and he tried to find like whoever owned it. And I guess someone had just left it. And anyways, I got a free Yeti. So.
Man, they're great. They're expensive. I don't think I would have bought one.
I don't think I would have bought one.
Yeah.
And I don't think. Anyways, I don't think you need a Yeti necessarily, but get you a cooler for Bonnaroo.
You can get these off-brand Yetis that are practically half the price these days if you go look at Walmart once the summer stuff starts
The
popping
Walmart
up.
brand is really good.
It does help tremendously because like your stuff is going to stay colder, and we'll get to tips like this as we get closer to June, but like dry ice pack, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I wouldn't just put a bunch of beers or waters
No,
in a Yeti or whatever it
freezing
may
your
be.
water bottles is going to be key.
Yeah. We'll talk
Who
tips
knows
like
at the
that
bottom.
as
Yeah.
we get closer.
Mhm.
But yeah, do plan on getting some kind of cooler. You're going to have it. So another thing that you probably already have thought of, but for newbies, we're going to go through this real quick, is some of the stuff that you need just for the rest of your campsite. So I'm talking folding chairs, a folding table, stuff like that.
Right, just some camping chairs.
Yeah. And a table helps tremendously because not only are you going to be able to play beer pong and like sit your drinks on top of it, but it kind of doubles your storage space because you can get some things to put underneath the table too. So think about it. You're going to want easy access to like plastic forks and spoons, maybe a first aid kit, napkins, wet wipes, things like that.
You're probably going to want some type of rug,
That's a
some
good
type
one.
of outdoor rug to put underneath your canopy or underneath your tent for your just campsite area in general. And I'll be honest, in our neighborhood, people throw out rugs all the time. So I have gotten several rugs that I just take to Roo and then I'll put that one in the trash and then get a new one. And then
We
or I'll
did use
pass
the
it
pressure
along.
washer.
Yes. No, actually last year I took one to Roo and then I gifted it to a girl at Roo. She took it home with her. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, 10
I forgot about that. Something else too, like hang around a little bit on Monday morning because a lot of people are going to throw out stuff that isn't necessarily bad. It's just that they don't have space for it after
if
repacking
we're
their
talking
car.
about ground scores, I've gotten so much stuff.
Like there's a lot of things that I've reused that were originally ground scores. Like people just didn't need it. I'm like, well, hey, I can use that.
Absolutely.
And it's better if you do. This is weird, but like a lot of that stuff is going to a landfill or it's going to like basically the Bonnaroo yard sale. So if you get that and take it home and put it to use, you're saving somebody a little bit of trouble.
I have a giant bus, so I cram it full.
I have so much stuff. It's ridiculous.
So you want to bring some type of rechargeable USB or rechargeable power supply. Some people just want to bring just the basic type of phone power supply for their battery. You can get those anywhere from $20 up to around $50. I personally like the little solar fold out kind. I like those. I prefer those over the little handheld kind.
Oh, yeah. That little solar thing that you bought before we went to Burning Man came in clutch because it charges your phone up ridiculously fast if it's a sunny day anyways. I couldn't believe
It
it.
folds out, and I think I paid like $50 for it.
Totally worth it.
But
Yeah.
if you're asking someone for a Christmas present, what you can ask them for is an entire power supply, like a Jackery or something like that. And those can get a little bit more expensive. Those can be in like the, $200 to $400 range. And those are going to give you some more power options. And you can research those. There's all types of different brands, but you can just start by looking up Jackery and researching, what different power options that you have right there. There are different, phone charging options around the plazas and around different areas in camp. But if you do need some power at your campsite, I would look into some of those, especially if you're asking for it for a Christmas present.
Oh, yeah. And while we're talking about power and lighting and stuff, I would look around for some solar lights that you can put at your campsite. It's going to be hot and sunny most days at Bonnaroo, so getting those charged isn't going to be a problem. It helps out a ton in being able to see what you're doing when you come back at like 4 or 5 a.m. or whatever like that, because it's going to be tough. Your phone is probably going to be dead if you've been out that late taking pictures and trying to get in touch with people. So you need to be able to see what the heck that you're doing. So some kind of solar light, some kind of battery operated light is going to be really key at that time of the night.
Right, exactly. I always have a little headlamp that I use.
Mm-hmm. And also, come to think of it, when we're talking about coming back to camp and trying to get some sleep, another thing that I might recommend are these little sleeping pads. So a lot of people get sleeping bags. That's great and everything, but you're probably not going to need to stay that warm at Bonnaroo. Yeah, maybe that's not true. Maybe we do get like a really cold night once in a while. But I would still recommend these pads. Now, I had this one that I bought on Amazon a couple of years ago that I used at Okeechobee and Burning Man. It was only like $20, and it was this deal that you stomped on for about 3 or 4 minutes, and it would make this great pad that you could just put on the ground and lay down, and it was more than comfortable enough. It lasted me about 1.5 years before it popped. I think it was worth the $20 or $30 though. So just consider it disposable. You're going to use it a couple of times, but I would totally recommend one of those. If you're going to be in a tent, it'll make it so much more comfortable.
So you can find all types of packing lists for Bonnaroo out there. Probably the most comprehensive packing list, even though it is several years old now, is going to be the Bonnaroo Crisp packing list.
Oh, that is timeless.
And you can actually just look up, you can just Google Bonnaroo Crisp packing list, and you can still find it on there. Like Daniel said, it is a timeless packing list. So if you're looking for any type of comprehensive list, definitely check out that Bonnaroo Crisp packing list.
Yeah, and again, we're recording this at the end of November, so I promise you, as an uncle myself, like some of your family members are wondering what to get you for Christmas. So make the little hints like, hey, I'm going to go camping a lot next year. I'm going to Bonnaroo. I'll probably reuse this stuff. Mm-hmm. Hint around a little bit about these kind of things that you need.
Exactly. And, there's some things in there like, the $50 canopy or, the $50 folding table or, hey, ask mom or dad for the jackery,
Also, if you have somebody in your camp that's coming to their first one, hey, these are nice things to get them for Christmas.
Right, exactly.
It would also be very thoughtful because it shows that you are really thinking about them for their first Bonnaroo. It shows that you care, that you're going to take care of them once you get to the farm.
A $10 folding chair, a great Christmas present.
Folding chair. I don't know why, but you said folding chair and it made me think of like hitting somebody upside the head like in wrestling with one or something.
Oh, my goodness. Well,
no, not that kind of folding chair.
A camping
A camp
chair.
chair.
I guess we should say a camping chair.
A camp chair. A canvas
chair.
one, not a metal one. Not one that like John Cena's going to get hit with.
Yes, those type of folding.
John
Please
Cena's
bring
cousins.
some metal folding chairs to Bonnaroo.
Bring
them out like the church. Bring like the church chairs.
No. Okay, we talked about this last time that we needed Bonnaroo wrestling or whatever. The church chairs. But hey, we've got the folding tables. We're going to have the folding chairs. We're just going to have a ladders and chairs and tables match.
I thought you were going to say a church potluck.
Well, we kind of do that too. Like InfoRoo has a potluck. We have the monkey bar. The Red Roo Beer Exchange. They're all potlucks. Can you think of anything else, Sharla, or would you like to move on to our weekly picks?
I would definitely check out that Bonnaroo Crisp packing list.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. If you heard nothing else from us, check that out.
And now we're going to move on to our weekly picks.
You want to go first or me?
We probably have the same picks.
Oh, boy. Do you have anything
have the same
else?
Picks.
Well, we watched a lot of TV the other night because we were really tired coming back from a trip.
Picks.
All right. So you want to go first or me?
Let's just go at the same time.
Okay. Well, clearly, I think we already know this first one since we loved it the other night. We watched the first 2 episodes of the
Fargo,
5th season of
5.
Fargo. Yeah. So let me tell you this. It's an anthology show. So if you haven't seen any of the previous seasons, that doesn't matter. You can jump in with any season.
Start watching season 5 by itself. It's okay.
It kind of is in its little own shared universe, but it's not like Marvel or something like that. The stuff that connects each season to one another, more or less Easter eggs, it doesn't matter. It's cool to see if you know what's going on, but if you're a new viewer to this, you can jump in with any season. And I'm going to be honest, season 4 wasn't bad, but I didn't care for it as much as the other seasons.
So I liked season 1. Season 2 was okay. And 3 and 4 I was way too confused. I was like, I don't, yeah. Anyways.
Well,
season 5 so far, I'm just like blown away. Like, I'm like, ready to watch the next one like immediately.
So let's back up. Like, these are based on the 90s movie Fargo. It was a Coen Brothers movie. So you've seen a lot of their movies, even if you don't remember their names. They made Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Raising Arizona, many other great movies. This is why Wikipedia and IMDb exist. Yes. You can look it up. But Fargo, I think, won a number of Oscars. And it's kind of like one of the touchstones that people think of when they think of the Coen Brothers. Anyway, the show takes place in the same universe, and it's very, very, very loosely connected to the events from the movie. And each season kind of goes through a different story. Oftentimes, it's set in an entirely different time frame. Like, one season was entirely in the 70s, I think season 2. Last year, season 4, the one that's still good, but my least favorite, was like in the 50s, I think, where it was like the gangsters in Kansas City.
That's what it, okay.
And kind of
it was okay.
Kind of the concept of everything, if there is one, is that it's just, okay, what if you take a normal person and they start making bad decisions and it just gets out of control and they get into larger than life situations.
Right.
And deal with the consequences of their actions. That's one of my catchphrases, I suppose. Yeah. So I don't want to give any spoilers, but season 5 starts with things already out of control. And it was kind of refreshing to see it work its way backwards. I don't want to say much at all, but I will say that it has insanely good performances. So like Juno Temple, that most people know from Ted Lasso, is in this.
John Hamm, who most people know from the Don Draper show.
Mad Men?
Mad Men.
It kind of messed with my mind to hear Juno Temple not have the kind of, hyper British accent to being more like Minnesota nice. I'm like, this does not compute. And like John Hamm in this show, everybody thinks of Don Draper, but most of his other roles are like him just being ridiculously goofy. So it's kind of funny seeing him be this hard ass cowboy type. Have you noticed that? Like in this show, it always casts people against type.
Yes.
Like last year in season 4, Chris Rock was one of these really serious gangster types. Like somebody that you wouldn't think of ever casting for something like that. Actually, come to think of it, season 1 was the only time where it had people casted to type, because Billy Bob Thornton was kind of like this bad guy.
Yeah.
He was kind of like an assassin. And why can't I think of his name? The guy from the British version of The Office played Bilbo Baggins. You know who I'm talking about. He was kind of like the everyman that was in over his head. That made sense for him too. But every season beyond that, it's been these wild casting choices. And this is probably the wildest so far with season 5. Anyway, there's 2 episodes out, maybe 3 by the time that you listen to this. If you haven't checked out any season, you can just jump right in. At least try 1 or 2 episodes and let us know if you liked it. Because, man, we love this show. It's so fun. And I know we got a lot of people that listen from around the upper Midwest. I would be really interested to hear what Chloe thinks of this, or what Ryan thinks of this, since he's from around Kansas City,
I wouldn't say that's not the upper Midwest though, is it?
Close enough in my mind. In this area of the country, that's all the upper Midwest.
Chloe
to me.
maybe, but
well, we'll get her opinion on this. All right, I had another one, and it might also be the same.
Probably going to be the same one.
Well, do you want to say it?
Scroll down on your thing.
Well, I didn't even write it.
Oh, God, you go ahead.
Okay, is it The Crown?
Oh, no.
No? Oh. Well, do you want to talk about that? And then you can tell me what you were thinking?
You go ahead.
The other night when Sharla and I got back from some travel and we were just wiped out, we binged every episode out so far of the new season of The Crown. And if you haven't heard of that, it is kind of basically it's a soap opera about the royal family. And that sounds ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, but man, I just eat this stuff up for some reason. And the most recent season, or half a season, is about Princess Diana. If you are around our age, and I'm sorry this dates us a little bit, you were probably around somewhere 10 to 15 years old when Diana passed, and when she was just everything in the news. Man, this new season is fun, being able to relive that until it gets to the, you know what. That was kind of excruciating, but it was really interesting to relive all that history that I remember when I was probably 12, 13 years old or whatever. A lot of the things that are on the show now, I'm like, oh, I remember when that happened. And it's funny considering that this show started in the 60s or 50s when Elizabeth was, first queen or whatever. Now it's gotten to the point where oh, wait, I'm old. I remember these things. But we've loved that. Oh my gosh. I forget the actress's name, but the lady that portrays Princess Diana looks just like her, and man, it's just incredible performance from her too.
Oh, definitely.
So there's another one. I thought we were both going to mention that one, but what's yours?
Maybe I mentioned it before.
Yes.
That's why you didn't mention it. I was going to say For All Mankind.
You did briefly mention that
Did I mention it before?
past week, but it keeps getting better and better.
If you guys have not watched this show, please go and watch For All Mankind.
Yeah, do me especially a solid and go watch that show.
Now, unlike Fargo, you do have to watch all the seasons to really understand what's going on, but it is so amazingly wonderful. It is such a good show. It is a show that I feel like I understand what's going on. It's easy to understand, and it's a science show. It's a science-based show, and it is an somewhat accurate science-based show, even though it is a historical fiction. I mean, it's just so good.
So, like, the first 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons, are very much grounded in reality. And I'll just tell you, from like walking the halls at my workplace, like a lot of it feels very, very accurate. And the past year or two, it has ventured more into sci-fi because it's more, I think it's accurate to say, speculative science fiction. It's like, okay, it's still somewhat based in a little bit of reality because theoretically this could have happened if we had kept, advancing very quickly in the space race. Not to give too many spoilers away, but like in the current season, the timeline is now up to around, I think, the year 2003, 4, something like that. And there's essentially a Mars base. There's like hundreds of people living on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
I think that realistically could have happened if we had kept going that quickly.
Agreed.
Apparently, there's a Marriott on the moon by 2004 as well. I wish they would show that. That'd be very cool. So I will tell you this. This past week, I got to meet a couple of the astronauts that are going to be going up in Artemis 2 next year. And I was able to ask them, like, hey, have you guys watched this show? And they're like, yes, and we love it. So
that's amazing.
That goes to tell you something about this particular show, man. That, like, the real people doing this stuff love that show, too. So, yeah, check it out. It's on Apple TV Plus, whatever it is. And you can get that for just $5 a month. Just get 1 month and binge it. The first 2 seasons are a little bit of a slow burn, but it picks up really quickly after that. Mm-hmm. And man, every year the season finales are insane too. I don't know what they're going to do to us this year.
Right. It's one of those shows where like every episode is just makes you just grip your heart.
Would you go as far as to say that For All Mankind is our favorite show right now? There's a lot of good stuff on TV.
Probably.
Oh yeah, for me definitely.
But there, like you said, there's a lot of good stuff right now.
Yeah. I feel like there was something coming out soon. So, like, we got Fargo, The Crown.
There's a new season of True Detective coming out in January with Jodie Foster.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be good. Oh, we'll have to talk about the first couple of seasons on another episode sometime and prep for that. Yeah. But since Barry, I'm talking to you, Barry, and others have asked for our recommendations and we haven't done them in a while, I thought we would give a few plugs. But, yeah, Barry in particular is always asking me and Charlotte, what should I watch next? Barry, go watch For All Mankind. I think you'll love it.
Yes.
I bet he'll love Fargo too.
Yeah.
That kind of seems like his jam. I've heard him talk about like how he likes Coen Brothers stuff.
Oh, then why has he not already watched it?
Yeah, season 5 is a good place to start too.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even worry about any of the other seasons. This is probably the strongest it's been in the past 3 or 4 seasons, honestly. Okay, we've been talking about that kind of stuff a lot. I have nothing else for this week. That was all of my plans.
Nope.
We need to get more Totem board members on. I've got to twist some arms and get some people on. Do you want to call out anybody?
I'm going to call out Evan Brown.
Evan Bonnaroo. Evan Brown. Yes, I think we need to get him on. We can get him to talk about his photography stuff that he's been working on as well. Did you see that apparently he was the, I guess, official photographer for Moon Taxi a little while back?
That's cool.
That's so cool. I know that's one of his favorites, so that had to be a big deal for him. So, yeah, Evan, calling you out too. So if you don't hear from me, by the time you hear this, we're going to get you on the next episode or two so you can tell us about what you're helping out with Totem and your photography stuff as well. And those of you in New York that are neighbors with Evan, we're going to try to get a Totem event set up in Manhattan in February too. So more to come on that. So hope you guys are having fun. Please have fun at your holiday parties, figuring out Roo Clues and everything. this is going to be an interesting rumor season as it starts to conclude over the next month. I think a lot of us kind of know like what we're going to see in smaller font names, but like I said earlier, I don't think anybody has any realistic clue who our headliners are going to be. And that's just wild for this point, now that it's into November, beginning of December. I remember years ago, the week before Thanksgiving, finding out that Pearl Jam was going to play in 2016. Now it's starting to get this late, and we really have no clue whatsoever. It's fun. We're going to have some Christmas presents to unwrap, I suppose. But anyway, that's it for this week. Carla, any last thing you want to plug?
Yes, get out there and radiate positivity.
Ooh, that's a good one, yeah. See you guys later.